Hello everyone and welcome to CryptoRed, your channel for crypto news. I'm back from vacation and wow, so much has happened. We even saw a new all-time high for Ether yesterday. I've got a lot to cover. We'll hit the top stories from the last 24 to 84 hours, plus a few that are a bit older. First, a quick look at the prices. Today's market down about 3%. We still at pretty elevated levels, especially for the big caps. Bitcoin around $110,000, Ethereum at $4,600. And just about 20 hours ago, according to CoinGecko, Ether printed the new all-time high at $4,946. We didn't quite break the 5,000 line. There were a lot of liquidation waiting up there, but it's only a matter of time in my view. I'm convinced we'll get above $5,000. Something else that stands out, most of the large caps have now taken out their previous all-time high. If you look at the top 10, Bitcoin has done it, Ethereum did it in August, XRP in July, and BNB in August. Solana crossed its all-time high a while back, and Tron did it in December last year. And on the flip side, some coins are still nowhere near their old peak. Dogecoin has been under its 2021 peak. Cardano also, Chainlink also. So the big question now is, does this bull run stay concentrated in the largest caps, the largest cryptos, or does it rotate into a wider set of altcoins? Personally, I have a low conviction in most altcoins. For example, Polkadot is still about 92% below its all-time high. Do I think it's going back there? I don't. You could make the same case for a bunch of other names. For me, the hardest part in now is choosing which asset to hold long-term. It sounds simple, but for many people, it isn't. They spread themselves thin across 15,000 coins that aren't at all relevant. It's tricky, and let's be honest about that. It's really, really tricky. Back to Ether. We burst $5,000, as I said. We hit $4,926 and then pulled back to around $4,600. Bitcoin also had a mini flash crash yesterday. We were at $123,000, then suddenly slipped to a few thousand less. And what's going on? In fact, a whale moved the market. There's an address holding $11 billion in Bitcoin, and they seem to be selling BTC to buy Ether. They already sold $2.6 billion worth of BTC. They've also opened the long on Hyperliquid. The really interesting part is that the big sale this Sunday over $2 billion went through Hyperliquid spot market. That tells you there's a real liquidity now in Hyperliquid. Not long ago, they only had perpetuals and they did not have spot. Now they have it and they're a major player in this space. The positive takeaway, the market managed to absorb a multi-billion-dollar spot sale on a Sunday. This was not OTC. It was not over the counter. It wasn't spread over months. It was really fast. We've seen big dumps on centralized exchange before, but this is the first time I've personally seen much size go through a so-called decentralized platform in one shot. Even if to me, Hyperliquid is still relatively centralized because there's a low count of validators. Bottom line, whale is rotating from BTC into ETH. That may spook some people, but it's obviously good news for Ether. As I've said, I'm exposed to both. If BTC dips while it rips, then it's fine for me. I believe in both of them. I really believe in both of them long term. So for European users, their 45 euro bonus on Bitvavoit's exchange, European exchange. There are two bonuses. One, you get 20 euros if you deposit 500 euros, and this finishes in a few hours. The other one is if you trade 100 euros, you get 25 euros. So there you can accumulate the two bonuses. You get 45 euros. It's really great promotion. Don't hesitate to look at the link below to have this bonus. So yeah, we've seen a drop in the last few hours, but remember, there was a strong move up before that. When Ether first burst its former all-time high, then actually surpassed it a few days later. Here's what happened. The Fed and Jerome Powell is the head of the Fed, the Federal Reserve of the United States. Powell signaled that we're likely to get a policy rate cut in September. Remember, the Fed has two goals: keep inflation anchored to around 2% and keep employment low. They work those two levers mainly through the federal funds rate. Up to now, they were laser focused on bringing inflation down. In the latest remarks, though, they basically said that in the near term, the bigger risk has shifted to the labor market. The job market really isn't looking great right now. There are several signs pointing to trouble. So, what do market pros take from that? That Jerome Powell will cut rate in September, and markets are absolutely expecting it. That's very bullish for a risk asset, crypto, equities, the whole risk assets like crypto. It's part of what fueled the run-up before today's pullback. And look, we're not even at the rate cut yet, and the market's holding pretty well. The S&P 500 is close to its highs. Even in crypto, we are almost at all-time highs for some cryptos, BTC, Ethereum. Now, let's zoom in on the companies that are buying crypto in size. First, Bitman. I've talked a lot about them, but they're still buying aggressively Ethereum. They now hold 1.7 million ETH, roughly 1.4% of the entire Ethereum supply. That's huge. They're still accumulating around $8 billion worth of ETH, and they've still got close to $600 million in dry powder ready to deploy and buy more ETH. They can step in and buy whenever they want, and they're almost certainly doing it. In second place, Sharplink Gaming is buying too, though only a few thousand ETH. What's really wild is how quickly these Ethereum treasuries companies have grown over the last few months. In just a couple of months, we went from almost nothing, about 1 million ETH on July 1st, to well over 3 million, even near $4 million ETH now. That's roughly a 4x in 2 months in the amount of ETH held in these firms. I think it will continue. It's real sustained demand for ETH. Wall Street is waking up to what Ethereum can do, and they're buying. Of course, Bitcoin leads the pack with MicroStrategy, but it is clearly becoming Wall Street's second favorite crypto among these treasury-style buyers. There are other alts in the mix, sure, like Solana, but it is miles ahead of the rest after BTC. Speaking of strategy, they just bought $357 million worth of Bitcoin. They keep buying, dips, high, doesn't matter, they're constantly accumulators. It slowed a bit last week, they didn't add much, but now they're back with more than $300 million of BTC. For most coin that will be massive, for BTC it barely moves the needle, but MicroStrategy keeps humming along. On Solana, we're seeing the same treasury company trend. Galaxy, Jump, and Multicoin are deeply involved in Solana ecosystem. Jump, for example, is behind Wormhole. Multicoin was an early Solana backer. They're now raising about $1 billion for Solana treasury. Basically, a firm that allocates its treasury directly in Sol. So more major players trying to raise serious capital to buy crypto is really a trend that will continue, that we're seeing a lot right now. There's also a new company aiming to buy BNB, launched by former Bitmain folks, the ones known for selling mining equipment. They've got support from YZ Labs, you know, the company of CZ, formerly Binance Labs. They too want to raise $1 billion. The company name is B Strategy. It's a bit odd, clearly reminiscent of MicroStrategy, even down to the Strategy B logo. I wouldn't be surprised if they rebrand later. Either way, with that, they're clearly setting shop to buy BNB. They want to buy a lot of BNB. Yet another sign that many players are leaning into this treasury as a treasury company model. Let me circle back to ETH versus BTC. What I'm seeing and what a lot of people are watching right now is a rotation from BTC into ETH. The move by that large whale that I just told you about is one example. The BTC dominance has dipped a bit relative to ETH. If that continue and the September rate cut lands in a few weeks, I think it could really continue, and we will see ETH still climbing its dominance, and the dominance of BTC shrinking. You can see all of this in your favorite trading tools. CoinGecko, for instance, is really good for that. On the dominance chart, you can see the BTC dominance, the ETH dominance. You can track what's moving. As of August 25, ETH share is around 13 to 14%. Not long ago, it was barely 12%. And when you look at the last 3 months, you can see it. If you zoom out to a longer time frame, in 2001, it had about 20% of the entire crypto market. Today, it's closer to 14%. So even if the overall market size didn't change and it simply returned to that 20% share, you can see the potential upside for it. I said it before, for me, $10,000 on it this cycle is absolutely achievable. So yes, we're in the rotation. The big question everyone's asking now is whether we'll get a rotation from Ethereum into altcoins after this. We'll see. I'm sure some altcoins will perform really well. I repeat that all the time, but the tricky part is choosing which one. There are so many tokens that you really have to be a specialist to identify the ones that will outperform BTC or outperform it. That kind of trading and investing isn't easy for everyone. Staying with BTC, in the Philippines, there's a proposal from a senator from a congressman to create a central reserve of BTC. The Philippine Central Bank should buy 10,000 BTC and lock it for 20 years. It's just an idea for now. It is not accepted. The idea is to buy 2,000 Bitcoin per year for 5 years, then lock it, never sell more than 10% over any 2-year period after the 20 years, and use it to help repay the state debt. So, as I said, it hasn't passed, but it's we've seen a lot of countries with this kind of proposal. We've talked about the US, and I've seen similar proposal elsewhere, but nothing concrete yet, apart from El Salvador buying BTC. I haven't seen truly massive multi-billion-dollar BTC purchase by a country. I'm sure it will happen. BTC will be first, clearly. We won't see any altcoins adopted before that. A number of countries will adopt BTC. It's starting, and I think once the US truly formalizes things, it will accelerate. Next, World Liberty Financial, the Donald Trump project that was open to everyone. They raised funds on an ICO. It was at a valuation of $1.5 billion, fully diluted valuation. Now it's trading in perpetuals, so the token is not yet tradable, but you can trade the perpetuals. It's trading at $40 billion, fully diluted valuation before launch. It's huge. It's really huge. People are making a huge multiple on this ICO. The ICO, when it launched, it did not work well. Momentum picked up after the Donald Trump token pumped, and after Justin Sun put in around $70 million in the ICO. Interest surge, and the pre-sale did sell out eventually, but it took several weeks, if not months, to fully sell out. And now people who invested will be able to sell a huge part of their investment on 1st September. Only 20% of the tokens purchased by the users of the earliest funding rounds, which priced between 0.015 and 0.05, will be able to sell. So yeah, now it's trading at 0.40, so a huge multiple. Next, Layer 0 has officially acquired the Stargate project. Layer 0 is the team behind the infrastructure on which Stargate was built. Stargate is the bridge that lets you move crypto from one blockchain to another very simply. Stargate is doing well, and they've won the right to be acquired by Layer 0. There was a vote, it passed, and competitors like Wormhole also tried to submit proposal, but did so too late. In the end, Layer 0 proposal for Stargate was accepted, so Stargate is being acquired by Layer 0. Now, good news for Ethereum, Ronin. Do you remember the Ronin blockchain, the one Axie Infinity runs on? Axie was a huge topic last cycle. The Web3 games was a huge trend before. Now it cooled down, but Axie Infinity is really a huge game. Ronin just announced they're going back to Ethereum by turning Ronin into a layer 2. If you remember, Axie Infinity started on Ethereum, then launched Ronin because Ethereum performance wasn't sufficient. Ronin has basically been a sidechain, a separate blockchain. They're now saying they'll stop running that separate chain and move back to Ethereum with an L2, meaning a solution built on top of Ethereum that benefits from Ethereum security. For me, that's really good news for Ethereum. Seeing projects return to its ecosystem shows how much the narrative around Ethereum has changed in recent months. Back in April, people were saying Ethereum was dead at $1,000. Fast forward 3 or 4 months, and we've hit all-time high. Projects are coming back, and Wall Street is returning. The shift on this project has been pretty wild. Next, Story Protocol. Well, the price-wise, it's been doing fairly well with the market cap around $1.8 billion. The idea is all about intellectual property, IP, how to tokenize IP and set up payments flow. Honestly, I've never fully understood how that would work in real life, but the market seems to like it. Their market cap is small compared with their fully diluted valuation, which means that there are still a lot of tokens set to unlock. But the part that I found pretty shocking is about a week ago, the founder of Story said he's leaving after 3.5 years, barely 6 months after the TGE, so after the token launched. Apparently, he did some OTC sales, likely pocketing a few $1 million, and then said, "I'm out." He's going back to artificial intelligence, which he's been passionate about for a while. He worked at DeepMind, Google's AI arm, and now he wants to return to AI. To me, that's clearly bad news for Story. When a co-founder of a major project leaves quickly, it signals a problem. If the person most invested in it and knowledgeable about the protocol decide to walk away to build something else, it suggests they think what they'll build next is better than the current project. That's a very negative signal, and it reinforces my bearish views on Story Protocol. The token ticker is IP. So yeah, I don't recommend buying this token because of the latest news, and also because I don't like, in fact, this token. Now, SBI Group, do you know it? It's a Japanese conglomerate, financial service, banking, and more group. It's a very large company that generates billions of dollars. They just announced several crypto partnerships. With Circle, they're creating a joint venture to promote USDC. With Ripple, they'll distribute RLUSD, Ripple stablecoin, within their group. That show they're deeply involved in crypto. They've also announced a partnership with Chainlink to support LWA and stablecoin use case. So they'll be using Chainlink's SCIP. It's genuinely interesting to see how much focus on crypto they put from this big group, this big Japanese group. It's a good sign that they're really leaning on solutions built on public blockchains. As I said, Chainlink, RLUSD, and USDC are all built on public blockchains. Next, Avalanche. Grayscale, the firm behind a number of crypto funds, has failed to convert its Avalanche fund into an ETF. So this is yet another altcoin ETF filling, this time for Avalanche, and it's coming from Grayscale, which is a major player. It's thanks to them that we got the ETF approval. I think for the Ether approval, they sued the SEC, and in the end, it went through. If I remember right, it was the Ether ETFs. And that's really good sign. We're getting closer and closer to approvals for ETFs beyond just BTC and ETH. We're not there yet, but it shouldn't be long. I know people have been saying that for a while, but I genuinely think it'll happen before the end of 2025. So yeah, we will have soon this kind of ETFs. Next, MetaMask officially announced its stablecoin, the MUSD. There had been a leak, so we were expecting it. Now it's confirmed. MUSD will launch on Ethereum and Linea. That makes sense. They're under the same company, Consensus, which owns MetaMask and Linea. There will be a debit card also. Honestly, I'm not sure how they'll differentiate, but my guess is they'll push MUSD hard inside MetaMask, and they'll try to seed liquidity pools with the MUSD on Linea using financial incentives, possibly with the Linea token. That's just speculation, we'll see. Either way, it's notable to see a major crypto player like MetaMask rolling out a new stablecoin. Now, Solana. In the last few days, there was news that they topped 100,000 transactions per second in a test. That's huge, pretty much unheard of for a public blockchain. But keep in mind, those weren't 100,000 real transactions per second. Most of them were no-op transactions, basically empty operations that don't reflect real user activity. It's still impressive, but in real condition, Solana can't handle 100,000 transaction swaps, for example, per second. The point of the test was to show that in theory it's achievable, and with further optimization they could move toward it. Why does everyone chase 100,000 transactions per second? Because Visa process around 65,000 transactions per second. Visa is really the benchmark that the benchmark crypto projects like to match or beat. Hitting 60,000 or 100,000 transactions per second will be massive. The first chain that can sustain that in the wild under normal conditions, not just special stress test, with real usage, it will be a game changer. It's also interesting to compare philosophies. Solana aims to push the highest possible TPS on the main chain, while Ethereum is improving the base layer but also scaling through L2s, blockchains built on top of Ethereum. So a whole ecosystem of L2s collectively boost throughput. So yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and don't forget the €45 bonus for European users. You have the link below. Bye bye. See you tomorrow.